with the death of Sarah and then ends with the death and burial of Abraham. Before the Torah tells us about Abraham's death, the Torah says that he married another woman called Keturah and had more children. And then the Torah says he sent away those children with gifts, meaning he didn't send them away in a negative sense of getting rid of them, but he spread them out in different places and gave them, a financial basis to be able to live. And everything he had, he gave to Yitzchak, meaning that Yitzchak is the continuation of Abraham, but the other sons, also Abraham treated them respectfully. And actually, there are some sources that say that Abraham gave them spiritual gifts. And when I saw that at the end of Parashat Chayei Sarah, we're biduk in the middle of all these Abrahamic agreements. He rang a bell with me that these two things go together. And I was thinking that maybe the idea that what Abraham was doing was creating kind of a nucleus of Am Yisrael in Eretz Canaan, in the land of Israel, and Abrahamic nations in the area. Other nations who believe in one God, who have a moral basis of believing in one God, from believing in one God, creating something regional that can be a light, that can be a certain center, that can bring things to the world. And so there's tremendous potential to this thought and to this area, instead of being an area of strife and war, of being an area that can be a world center of something around Abraham and our cousins, the other Abrahamic nations. And from what I hear, I have not been to Dubai, but you'll tell us, Loretta, but from what I hear, maybe there's a potential here, I would say the following, of a kind of nations that are not negative towards Western culture. There are things, good things we can take in Western culture, but are not getting carried away by Western culture. We don't have to follow and imitate every single step that they take. We're not going to jihad against Western culture, but we're also being more conservative and how would you say? I had another word in my head before, more conservative and traditional than where Western culture is today. And maybe that has potential of giving us a good combination, a good balance between the blessings of our traditions, our conservative side, and the modern Western world. I think it has a potential. We can respect other people, but it doesn't mean we have to be exactly like them. And maybe we are conserving something for the world by doing that, while not going out to war with the world and being respectful and taking blessings from others. I wonder if this has a potential for Israel and our Abrahamic neighbors and cousins in the area. Could be fascinating. I'd love to be here 200 years from now to see where it goes. I'm not sure I'm going to succeed in that, but for now, it looks like a good step to take in the right direction. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, everyone. Loretta, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was a nice way of introducing the whole subject of Dubai, actually. So thank you, Rav Tzvi. That was wonderful. Firstly, I'd like to say good evening, shalom and salam, and thank you all for joining me on a virtual tour to Dubai. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge my fascination in learning about people, cultures, and connecting that these two can go together with the races and the religions in all different places. And my love of photography through my parents, especially my mum, has helped me to create something that I'd like to share with you tonight. I am very grateful for many people that's helped to make tonight possible. First of all, my production team, Sarah Yitzchaki and Yael Wu, and my darling husband, Harvey, Shuli, Oshra, Danny Yellen, Danny Hakim, and Jordan Polavoy have all helped to make tonight possible. So I hope you all enjoy your trip. So I am Loretta Belik. I am early childhood educator, a garden therapist, and a coach. So, are you ready? I'd like you to sit in a comfortable chair and close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to think back to the days in December 2020 when we were before getting vaccinated for the coronavirus. If you can remember when there was an Israeli announcement of the first flights to Dubai, what an amazing feeling that was. I never dreamt that this would happen in my lifetime, let alone that I would be one of the first people on one of the first flights with my Israeli passport going to Dubai, being invited by Danny Hakim to the opening of the auspicious occasion of the Crossroads of Civilizations Museum, and to be able to partake in a very special Shabbat dinner with 50 Jews, mainly expats, in the Renaissance Hotel, which was an evening full of very wonderful, important Jewish speakers, part of what's happening in Dubai. Please open your eyes now and look through my lens to see the tsunami effect, as it's called, of the healthy relationships that are being formed between the Emiratis and Israel and the Jewish people. From the moment I landed in Dubai, I knew that it was going to be one of the most powerful experiences for me as a proud Israeli. Honored to be amongst one of the first Israelis to be introduced to Emirati people. Therefore, I wanted to be able to capture everything I saw and experienced in order to have tangible confirmation with images that what I saw, heard, felt, tasted was going to be real and true, not a dream. The acceptance I felt at the airport as I was given an explanation of how to connect on my phone, actually to install on my phone an app, sound very techy, install an app on my phone in order to scan the barcode to be tested for corona was the beginning of inclusion. An Emirati man offered to install the app for me on my phone. This was an opportunity for me to say salam and to talk briefly with locals. It was so exciting. There were Jews, Muslims, Christians, people from all walks of life there, waiting in line, respectfully and patiently waiting for instructions. This was my first aha moment. The opportunity for different segments of society coming together, maybe for the first time or not, but having a chance to observe one another and interact with each other. I will introduce you to very important characters who are currently helping to create this new mind-blowing connection between the Jews and the Emirati people. In my talk, I will be speaking about the Jews in the Emirates, the city of Dubai, Jerusalem, and finding the balance. Meet Fleur Hassan Nahum, the Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. Fleur demonstrates the connection of our two people with passion and delight in her eyes. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hi to the Beliks. It's really wonderful to be community. Recording this message for you. I'm actually at the moment really wonderful to be recording this message for you in Dubai. I'm actually at the moment and I'm just thrilled to say that we're living in Dubai, in the UAE, and I'm just thrilled to say that we're living in historic times. To tell our children and grandchildren these are the days, times we were making a warm peace with our neighbors. to tell our children and grandchildren these were the days historic. We were making a warm peace with our neighbors. Sephardi Jews have been connections living in this region for thousands and thousands of years. Have been and living in this region. Have the opportunity thousands and thousands to rebuild Abraham's tent, and now we have to be able to forge to rebuild Abraham's tent region. And to be able of our children forge, and the UAE and Bahrain region is just a start for the benefit of our children. That Morocco has joined UAE and Bahrain, my own families from Gibraltar, Morocco, please now. And so Morocco has joined really my own families from Gibraltar, Morocco, to be here from here. So it's really able to be at the front line. To be here from here, front line of building, being able to be at the front line. So I hope you will have a wonderful evening. Front line of building, you're in great hands. Bridges to peace.
Did you hear? I'm not sure that was clear.
Hi to your wonderful community.
Was it yes clear or no not clear? Not clear. So we'd like to do that again because it wasn't clear. Okay, take two. Okay, is everybody muted? Okay, so technical difficulties, sorry, but we're going to just play it again because she is really one of the key players and I'd like you to hear her.
We have to do it again, but everything has to mute. Everybody have to mute.
Right.
Loretta should also be on mute, I think.
Hi to the Beliks. It's really wonderful to be recording this message for you. I'm actually at the moment in Bahrain after spending some time in Dubai, in the UAE, and I'm just thrilled to say that we're living in historic times, in times where we will be able to tell our children and grandchildren these were the days where we were making a warm peace with our neighbors. We have historic connections to our region. Sephardi Jews have been living in this region for thousands and thousands of years, and now we have the opportunity to rebuild Abraham's tent and to be able to forge a new region for the benefit of our children. And the UAE and Bahrain is just a start. I'm pleased now that Morocco has joined my own families from Gibraltar, Morocco. And so it's really thrilling to be here from here, being able to be at the front line of history and the front line of building the bridges to peace. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. You're in great hands with Loretta.
The Emirates have been open, have always been open in all the regions to, sorry, I'm saying that again. The Emirates have been open to all religions and nationalities because they've always been in the trade route of the world. The difference between the past display of acceptance towards Jews and today is paramount by the mere fact that prior to the Abraham Accords, a religious man who wore a kippah and tzitzit would never have been able to wear them exposed. Rather, they would be hidden. Whereas today, a kippah of any description and talit are worn out publicly, proudly, with total acceptance from every person around. That's pretty unbelievable. For example, Jewish expats have created a strong and vibrant Jewish community where a villa that was the home for worshipping and activities is now too small for the growing community. Not only is there one kosher caterer, now there are many in order to cater for all the events, whether they are Israelis coming in for weddings or bar mitzvahs, or El Al staff or Bank Hapoalim staff coming in for conferences. There is a huge demand, which is fantastic. Who would have believed that such a thing could happen in Dubai? According to an Israeli businessman whom I met, I learned that he can now sit at a breakfast table with an Emirati man wearing his kippah and his talit, order kosher food, bench in front of him, and conduct a business meeting with total respect. That doesn't necessarily happen in many places in the United States of America or London today. The Abraham Accords is well known all over the world as to what a historic event that was and the implications it had for all human beings. As I'm writing these words to you, I actually have just become aware that Sudan has joined Morocco to sign the Abraham Accords. Isn't that phenomenal? Beyond a dream come true? My dad would have been so delighted, beyond description. He once said that he hoped that when my boys were old enough, there wouldn't be a need for an Israeli army. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. However, before our eyes, we're seeing miracles. And as I was one of the fortunate ones to meet so many people to believe that this is all true. I'd like you to meet Ross Creel, the president of the Jewish Council of the Emirati people, a man that I was so impressed by at the Shabbat dinner with his current community, a man with a huge vision, and he gets his hands dirty to develop the growing community, working side by side with the Emirati people successfully. He is developing a Jewish kindergarten and a Jewish school right now, which is going to be based on one of the best schools in the world. I'd love to be working at that school. Let's hear Ross.
My name is Ross Creel. I'm the president of the Jewish Council of the Emirates. I had the great pleasure of meeting Loretta here in Dubai 2 weeks ago. And just to send a message, Loretta, to you and the group that you're speaking to, that what is happening in Dubai is indeed historical, not just in terms of its political implications between the UAE and Israel, but in terms of its broad implications for us as Jews, that we have an opportunity now to refract our relationship with Muslims through a different lens, one that is fundamentally positive, reflects our family connections, reflects the fact that we, in fact, come from this part of the world, reflects that the fact that the Quran sets out, as understood here in the UAE, a vision of tolerance and moderation. And I really invite members of your audience, Loretta, to come and visit us and experience it for themselves. It is transformative to be in the UAE and to visit its wonderful cities of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, etc. Wishing all of you Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks, Ross. The Rebuilding Abraham's Tent Historic Kingship Future Alliance event in Dubai at the Crossroads of Civilization Museum was just that. Mr. Ahmed Ubaid Ahmansouri, the founder of the museum, set the stage with such a warm and mutually respectful atmosphere among many distinguished Israeli and Emirati officials. The excitement and warmth were experienced by everyone. I had to pinch myself that it was true. Cynical people will say all the normalization, peace deals are all about business transactions and for political gain. Well, I beg to differ. There was an entire section of the museum called the Palestinian and Holy Land Gallery of Israel's history, pre-Israel times, and after the 1948 war. You can see on the pictures there's a map of Israel with the stamps on it. You can also see the Balfour Declaration, a Kiddush cup is there, a shofar is there, and candles for Shabbat. And you can also see on the screen, Danny Hakim is talking to the rabbi. The rabbi is wearing that mask which has the Israel flag on one side and the Emirati flag on the other side. And down the bottom, you can see Jordan, who is presenting the exhibition, and one of the Emirati people watching him. There was an entire section in the museum. Oh, sorry. They all depicted the long historical Jewish presence of the Middle East, of the Muslims and the Arab countries, and over the centuries ending in expulsion of 900,000 Jews. The monumental event I attended at the Crossroads of Civilization Museum was the invitation of a new relationship between people and our cousins. The highlight of the event was the announcement of the plan to open the Heritage Museum to be built in Jerusalem, documenting the history of the expulsion of the Jews. This was the first time an Arab country took responsibility and acknowledged the expulsion. I've never had such hopes for future generations and the fulfillment of friendship between Arabs and Israelis. Please hear for yourselves what Ahmed's thoughts are.
Shalom, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate both of our nations and both of our countries for the signing of peace by our leaders, both of our leaders. Through this peace agreement, we have the opportunity to revive the history, to revive our great history and great culture and great unified values and principles, and also, the bridges that has been historically between us a long time ago. We'd like to welcome you in the Crossroads of Civilization Museum in the Emirates of Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, to come and revive history with us. And you can also enjoy seeing the highlight that we have since 2012 of the great contribution of the Jewish civilizations in different areas of the world. Thank you very much for coming, and hopefully see you soon. Take care. Shalom.
Isn't it great? Life in Dubai has changed so much in such a short time from so many perspectives. Look at that. There's a huge Chanukiah in the middle of the town, gigantic. Look at the newspaper article. The newspaper article says that there is an Israeli-made Sefer Torah that's being sent to Dubai for Prince Zayed. It's in the newspaper. Who would have thought such a thing would be? What an important role Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi is playing in this positive religious accepting community in Dubai. Let's hear what he says.
Shalom, this is Rabbi Eli Abadi, the Senior Rabbi of the Jewish Council of the United Arab Emirates. I wanted to share with you how beautiful it is here to grow a community in over 1,000 years in an Arab country. I had the pleasure to meet Loretta Belik a few weeks ago when she spent Shabbat here with us and her husband. And she saw firsthand how a beautiful Jewish community grows in this country. The many visits by Israelis and Jews to this country, meeting many Emiratis, have engendered a great love, respect between the Jews and the Emirati people. There's a lot of curiosity and there is a lot of interest in learning from each other. We have been welcomed with open arms. We have been given a beautiful place to celebrate our Judaism, and with this is going to make closer the relationship between Jews and Emiratis, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates, and indeed the entire region of the Gulf. Please come and visit us. It will be a pleasure and honor to welcome you. Thank you very much.
The population of 3.38 million people in Dubai includes a mixture of nationalities of 100 different countries. Among them all are the vibrant, enthusiastic community of 150 Jewish families, 300 people in total. When one thinks of Dubai, it's easy to think about Las Vegas or Disneyland because of so many different reasons. However, let us remember that this city is a man-designed and created city in such a short time with an abundance of wealth. Therefore, of course, it stands to reason it's going to be very expensive. It has incredible architecture, a vast desert with quite the variety of activities for all the family to enjoy. The people are welcoming and the service is impeccable. So, for example, one morning I went down to the Cheder Ochel, the dining room, for breakfast, and I was by myself at 7 o'clock in the morning. And as I walked in, one of the waiters came up to me and he said, "Madam, would you like to sit outside at your usual table?" So I said, "Thank you, that's very nice." And then he proceeded, as I opened my mouth to say, "Could I please have," he says, "would you like decaffeinated coffee with almond milk?" Well, that was a bit mind-blowing. Does he know my passport number as well? Which brings me to tell you that the UAE is a police state. There are cameras on every single building. Therefore, people are all law-abiding citizens. Are the locals law-abiding due to fear or out of respect for the government? I received both answers from various locals and expats. That fascinated me. The city is immaculately clean. You can literally eat off the ground. People are incredibly careful in developing trust and show respect for long-term personal, business, and public relations. I traveled to Dubai with my husband Harvey, Leslie, and David Ratner. The most memorable journey gave us the opportunity as a team to open our eyes, meet and talk with wonderful, informative people, and share our interpretations and our experiences together. This trip had made such a profound effect on us, so much positivity everywhere, which is why I wanted to share all of this with you. Thanks, David and Leslie. Through all of my senses, I discovered the tastes of Dubai, the smells of the local dishes. I loved the malachia soup and the saffron al dessert. Fantastic. I also discovered the stunning flowers, beautiful trees, materials, the traditional clothing that people wore. No honking of cars, construction, high fancy buildings and villas. Oy vey, it's really the ultimate experience for everyone. This is a video of my driver Norman as he's taken me on the four-wheel drive. Just look at the vast desert.
Woo! You like this music? Oh, up we go and down.
Fun for all. To get around everywhere, it was one taxi after the other, which was really great for me because therefore I was able to talk to all sorts of people and hear all about their lives, what they're doing, where they come from. That's one of my things I love to do. So Norman, as you saw, was my driver for the day to the desert. And that day was so interesting as he told me basically a day in the life of Norman. And I have to say, I was exhausted at the end of listening to how hard he works and what he's doing in order to raise money for his family back at home in Pakistan and for himself, which actually leaves not very much time at all for any socialization or anything else at all. On our last taxi drive to the airport, we had a surprise when we got into the taxi of a lovely lady, Fatima, from Morocco. Well, I had no idea that there were female taxi drivers anyway. Taxis have to have services of women because there are many people who will not go into a taxi with someone of the opposite sex. These women have better conditions than men. They work slightly less hours and they have a day off, and they also have special time in case they have to go to doctor's appointments. So it was at least nice to know that they have slightly less harsh conditions than the men. Being a foreigner in any country is very tough. The women of the Emirates, wow, what an excitement. It was so impressive to meet these women. I managed to speak with a lady called Mai Al-Badi in the middle next to Leslie and myself at the Shabbat dinner table when she told me that she decided she wanted to learn Hebrew, and then her next plan is to work here in Israel as a member of the Emirati embassy. She was a very impressive young woman. I found out that the place to walk to meet people was the city walk. So off we went to hang out with the locals. What an experience that was. My first encounter was literally women in my face. If you look in the corner right picture, I was walking into a perfume shop to see what the man was going to tell me. And as I turned around, the women were literally, 7 women, literally in my face. I was a little bit overwhelmed. I had to gasp, and then I said, Salam, do you ladies usually come here to this perfume shop? So one of the sweet ladies looked at me. All I could see were her eyes with all the garb around her, which was a little bit overwhelming. And she said, yes, we come here especially to buy perfume. We've come from Abu Dhabi. So I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive. So then I asked, is there any perfume you particularly like? And one of them said, yes. She told me the name. So I went back in to buy it, of course. So that was my first big conversation with the women. And then after that, I asked what would be the best place to actually hang out with the locals. So I was told of the name of this restaurant called the Secret Gardens. So off we went to the Secret Gardens. And as I'm looking around taking photos of all the fake flowers, I see 3 lovely ladies sitting, having a very deep conversation. And I walked up to them and I saw that, first of all, their names are Amna, Mariam, and Rabha. I see that Rabha has hands full of henna. Her fingertips on both sides, both her palms and the back of her hands are full of henna. So I said, this is very, very beautiful. Would you mind if I take a photo? And she said, of course. So that was the opening for a conversation between us and these 3 women. They invited the team to come from the other restaurant to sit down, and they invited us for tea and coffee and cake. We sat for 2.5 hours with these women. These wonderful women gave us the opportunity to learn about each other's religions, traditions, and customs. We learned so much from these three open-minded, intelligent, single 30 to 38-year-old women. Rabha eventually told me that she felt like she'd known me for years. Well, that was very heartwarming. And at the bottom of the page, you can see I'm having a henna done on my hands by a lovely lady who sits at this mall from 4 p.m. till midnight every single night in order for her to save money for her families as well. To say that Dubai is over the top is an understatement. If you look at the top of the page, you see all the gold jewelry, and the middle piece of jewelry, which is basically a full breast cover with earrings down the bottom. These pieces of jewelry, this particular piece of jewelry cost 25,000 shekels. And all of the rest of them are also in the same bracket, but they are not actually made for people to wear. They are made on display. So it's quite a shock to see how over the top everything is. There are, in fact, fabulous places and things to see and do in Dubai. The very impressive, biggest mall in the world, the very biggest building, the Burj Khalifa, the beautiful Dubai fountains, the four-wheel drive activities, the Dubai Aquarium, which is so wonderful for a fish and water-loving person like me, which actually is the size of 4 Olympic swimming pools. There's also the city walk, which I discussed. And finally, there is the Palm, which is a man-made island for very fancy hotels and villas. During the Shabbat dinner, the Israeli ambassador to Dubai, Dan Shaham, greeted everyone with such excitement and enthusiasm about his new job to Dubai. He, like all of my other wonderful speakers, is a very busy man. And when I asked him if he could give me a 30-second video, he said, "I'm not sure that I'll be able to. I'm extremely busy. I'm very sorry. I don't want to commit." So let's see how he surprised me.
Shalom, everyone. Good morning. My name is Dan Shaham. I am the Israeli representative in IRENA, the Renewable Energy Agency, which is located in Abu Dhabi. Been there for 1.5 years. And what a wonderful thing it is that we have been able to establish relations with this so important country in the Arab world. Actually, Abu Dhabi leads the way and have led to additional countries signing up agreements with us. So today we have an airplane going directly to Morocco, and I hope that soon we will have more countries joining us. But definitely the relations with Abu Dhabi, which has been under the carpet for many years, and I've been part of it to some degree, has been setting up a course of reconciliation. And just like the name of the agreement, the Abrahamic Accord, denotes that relations are more than just the buying and selling and trade and tourism and whatnot that we will have plenty of, but somewhat of a different notion of agreements within the Middle East, something that bridges Jews and Arabs, and I hope to see so much more of it coming in the near future, and believing that it will change the Middle East. Thank you all very much, and God bless you. Bye.
Well, that was worth listening to, wasn't it? I was so grateful for that. So what are my concerns, and are they still valid? Israelis have a reputation for certain ways of behavior overseas. Some of our brethren are less cautious about preventing corona exposure than others. 70,000 Israelis tourists visited in the month of December. It's bound to leave an impression. We hope that our Emirati cousins enjoyed our Israeli visits and in turn that they will come to our beautiful homeland. We hope and pray we leave positive impressions and negative corona tests. Jerusalem is the perfect example of the connection between Jews, Muslims, and Christians. It's the home to the three Abrahamic religions. It's waiting to be enjoyed by everyone and with the most knowledgeable tour guides available. Just look at this stunning picture. A church, a mosque, and a synagogue all in one complex. This is outstanding. What a concept. Three religions praying one next to the other by choice. I'm lost for words at this dream, vision, and plan to be realized in Abu Dhabi in 2022. I'm a little overwhelmed by everything I witnessed, which makes me think about finding balance in my life of dreaming big, making things happen that might affect a lot of people or just myself, and finding a happy, healthy life. No matter our religion, whether God-fearing or not, we're all human. In this fast-paced world, we have to bring ourselves back to basics. To make these wonderful connections with our cousins, brothers, friends, and loved ones, we need to look after our body, souls, and minds. So, I welcome you now to chat with me if you like on the chat to see if you have any questions about my trip to Dubai. If you would like, also you're welcome to look at my YouTube channel. I have many videos of the actual people who were speaking at the Crossroads Museum event. I taped many of them and they're all there on the YouTube channel. So you're welcome to connect with me either now if you like, if you have any questions, or in the future. So it's open to whoever wants to conduct the next part of our session. And thank you very much for joining me.
Loretta, I wanted to
joining
say
me on my trip, and I hope that you had enjoyable time.
Loretta, I wanted to thank you in the name of the whole of the Kehila. Definitely, it was very, very interesting. And you leave us with really very optimistic thoughts about the future. Hopefully, this is like one spark, which Bezrat Hashem will lead to global peace. And in mind, when you were showing the mosque and the synagogue and the church, I was thinking of what the prophet Yeshayahu says, Lo yishsagoy el goy cherev velo yilmedu od milchama. So Bezrat Hashem, there will be world peace. So thank you for showing us Dubai through your eyes. And Tzvi, you want to go on a trip? But we'll see about that.
I suggest it.
Thank you so much for all the effort, really. It was very, very special. And
You're very, very welcome. It's my pleasure. It's really my pleasure. it was too much of an exciting trip to hold just to myself. I decided I really had to share with people, because I feel that there are a lot of people who don't really understand what Dubai is about. And to think really that Dubai is much like, you know, Las Vegas or Disneyland, it's so irrelevant when there are so many true connections being made between the Emiratis and the Jews. And they're excited. These people are excited. It's really, you know, the term tsunami effect is really true, because there's just project after project that's opening, that's happening, connections, visits, and it's a very exciting time. It's really wonderful.
What would you say about the status of women in Dubai, and about human rights in Dubai?
Well, first of all, there's a distinction between the local women and the foreign workers.
Let's speak about the local women.
Okay, so if you remember the slide where we were talking to those three lovely ladies, they were very, I would call modern-minded women who all live at home. I'll just talk about them, for example. They all live at home with their parents. The parents have accepted that they're not married, which is a pretty big deal, that they're between the ages of 30 and 38. And they've all gone to university. They're all very intelligent. Their families raise money in order for them to be able to study. It's very important in the families to make sure the children all get education. They work extremely hard to be able to provide universities.
Can the women vote? Do they vote in the parliament or whatever it is?
It's a good question. I would believe they can. There is a difference between what happens in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Abu Dhabi is, I think, a little bit more like religious than Dubai. Dubai, like walking around Dubai, you can actually see people who are dressed less schnizdik, to say, than they would be in Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, you wouldn't find a woman walking around without, you know, her sleeves covered, where in Dubai, there may be some that are walking around with singlet tops, like tourists.
Can the women
I do believe they have the right to...
Do the women own property? I mean, do you know, what is their status?
Well, I don't know if they own them. It's a very big deal to actually own land, because it's so hard to earn the money. It's very much a traditional thing which we have amongst our own different cultures, whether it's Moroccan Jews or Iraqi Jews here in Israel, where they buy land for the family to live close by, and they try to have this chamula type relationship that goes on there. I would say, having heard from these three women, that if they were to earn enough money, they could definitely buy their own house or their own property, because these people are earning good money. They're saving money and they're earning really well. So there's a lot of hope that these women can be independent, striving for excellence and achieving that in this open-minded society.
What Oshra is saying is she wants to open a branch of Matan in Dubai.
Now, I saw someone, I didn't read it, but someone put something in the chat. So I'm going to see if I can find it. No, hold on.
Danny Hakim wrote, women can vote.
Oh, good. Thank you, Danny.
Okay.
And they can be voted? Can they be in the parliament or whatever they have there? Can they?
I don't know about that. Maybe Danny knows the answers to that one.
Maybe Danny knows if they can.
Yeah, we just heard another lecture this afternoon about what's happening in Dubai. Maybe Danny can tell you more about that.
I can tell you that you'd be surprised. there are more women parliamentarian in Dubai than in Israel.
Oh, that's sad to hear. Oh, okay,
So
interesting.
So that's your answer.
And the women can go to university and they're educated. Yeah, you said they studied.
they study, there are many universities, top American universities in Dubai, and many of them also travel abroad and study in England and in America. So they come back highly educated and they get many government jobs. I met one lovely woman, 26 years old, who she was a diplomat before, and now she's starting a women empowerment nonprofit, and remarkable, and wants to have Israeli women come and speak in Dubai.
Wow, that is interesting. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Very important. Yeah. The partnership in that way could benefit, I think, both sides. It'd be very interesting. Also, you know, it's interesting, it being a traditional society, there can be links between religious Jewish feminists here and feminists, you know, Muslim feminists there. I mean,
well, I can tell you, happy to tell you that I'm already in talks with this woman and their organization to bring an Israeli Arab karate woman instructor to go there and speak, and also BT Deutsch to come.
Oh, really?
They're very
Oh,
interested in
wonderful.
BT because she's a traditional woman and a mother, and they say there'll be a lot of interest.
Amazing. That's amazing. What a great idea.
There's a lot of amazing things happening. I mean, that's why it's so exciting, because when you see these women who are really very intelligent and driven and passionate and want to make change in the world and are open-minded, it's so enlightening. When we sat and talked to them for the 2.5 hours, it was so comfortable. It's like we were just talking to our neighbors, and there was no judgment. There was no criticism, no judgment. It was total acceptance for who we are, for who they are. And I felt that really with everyone that I spoke to. I mean, I did speak to a lot of people. You know, when I mentioned about the school, if you can think about the fact that they're going to open a Jewish school, that's a huge deal. That's a really huge deal. To open a kindergarten, a school in a place where they're only now starting to make these changes, it's really phenomenal.
I wanted just to add one more comment, if I may. Can you hear me? I wanted to make a comment connecting to what Zvi said about the combination of traditional and modern cultures coming together and taking the best of the West, but keeping the tradition. And that's exactly where they are right now. When we spoke to these 3 women who go and get educated, but they still live at home, when we asked them, why do they live at home? And, you know, they were in their 30s, they were like, of course we live at home. We are to take care of our whole family. The money that they make from their salaries goes to take care of their family. They live in chamulas, you know, big extended families. They said it with pride, they said it with love, they said it with obligation and honor. So it was definitely a melding of those, you know, modern and traditional values. It was beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
How many of the people that you met are citizens and how many aren't? I understood that there's a very small amount of actual citizens.
It's like 10% are citizens, something like that, 10, 12%.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we ask about can women vote, for example, we're talking about the citizens. Who are the citizens versus like these women that you met? Are they citizens? Are they not citizens?
Yes, they are. They are citizens.
Yeah, the people that we met are all citizens. They are all Emiratis who live either in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai, and they vote. They are the locals. They're the locals.
And the 90% of the rest of the population
Who are
are
they?
there on temporary visas and could leave any time.
And they actually have very good conditions, because if they do have to leave, let's say Norman, for example, had to go home because his brother-in-law died, and he had to then go and really save the family financially and everything. He was given a month off specifically for that reason. So they are very, very generous in terms of making sure people can go home if they need to.
And how are the non-Emiratis paid?
Sorry?
How well are the non-Emiratis paid?
They're not paid well. That's why they have to. That's why they have to work that many hours. I mean, from all the different people that I spoke to, I'm not going to give you a number because I don't remember right now.
Yeah.
But, it's a minimum wage. It's mamash a minimum wage, which is why a driver has to work between 10 and 12 hours per day. And a woman works 6 to 8. And at the end of the day, they're exhausted and they have no energy to go out. They have no energy to meet people. They have no social life because they're working all the time. But when you have some people like Norman, he has a great time. He takes out all these lovely tourists and he's enjoying his work. You see the people who are the waitresses at the hotels or restaurants, whatever, and they're all charming and they all seem like they're being treated well. They just don't get a great wage.
Can I answer that question?
Who, Harvey Belik?
Yes, my name is Harvey. Hello. So about wages, one thing that I heard was interesting. People are paid, the professionals, right? There's a whole big professional. Somebody's got to run the country in high-tech jobs, for example. There aren't enough Emiratis. So the salary of the worker depends on the salary they would earn in their country of origin. This is what these women told us, I think. For example, if you're, let's say, computer engineer from England, you would earn a lot more than a computer engineer doing the same job from India, for example. That's the way they calculate it there. That was interesting.
Which means it's not so great for them because the cost of living in Dubai is so much more expensive.
Cost of living is high. Cost of housing is expensive. Cost of living, yes, it's more expensive in India, but less than England. It's actually prices, as we probably realize, Israelis having traveled overseas, it's expensive to live in Israel. Things are relatively cheap there. It's also a very lovely place to navigate. You get around by taxis, it's cheap, it's very safe. It's worth going once the corona settles down or you've had your shots and you've got a green passport.
I want to add about the foreign workers, that from all the foreign workers that I spoke to, they were all very happy being in Dubai. They were all happy with their choice of country, because of course they can travel anywhere in the world to do that sort of work. All but one. One man said he really can't stand the conditions and he's got to get back. He was from Africa, couldn't stand it. But everyone else was very, very happy to be working in Dubai until they finished making the amount of money they need to be able to take it back to home.
I think it's worth mentioning how safe it is. It's remarkable.
Well, I mentioned in the beginning that it's a police-run state, which is why it's safe. One of the things that we talked about with these women was how safe these women feel there's very little rape and very little physical abuse, that because people, first of all, are aware that they're going to be caught by the police because of all the cameras everywhere. B, they're liable to get a terrible fine. I mean, their fines are nothing like what we have in Israel. They have serious fines. And C, they may end up in prison. So just for an example, if a woman was in a relationship with a foreign person from out of Dubai, that person will end up being chucked out of Dubai if they were caught. They're very, very, very strict on everything.
Can you imagine there are many foreigners in the prisons? 90% of the population are foreign. What they do, which is very innovative, in the prisons, they have creative writing groups, which I thought was very innovative. They make books of these prisoners talking about their experience. Just an aside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the fact that it's a very law-abiding country has a lot of implications for how people behave there. That they really, for the most part, are very well-behaved people.
Do women in Dubai have equal standing in the courtroom? I don't know if you know that answer with the other gentleman. For instance, if there's a divorced couple in the court, they have claims against each other. Will the judge give equal status to the women with the claim, or will it be assumed that the man has more power and control than her, and his claim will be honored and not the women?
No, we asked that specific question to the woman with the henna on her hands, because she works for a lawyer, and she was telling us that in all these cases, if there are rape or something else happens to the wives, they are absolutely allowed to present their case, and it's respected by the law. A lot of respect for women, which is very nice to see and hear. Yeah. So I mean, if you have any other questions, you're welcome. Otherwise, as I said, you're welcome to check out the videos on my YouTube of the people who actually spoke at the Crossroads Museum, because they spoke very nicely. Of course, I didn't want to put it on this presentation because it would have been too long. But it was very nice to hear, particularly the rabbi speak, and Mr. Danny Hakim spoke there, and others. So you're welcome to check them out. And if anyone has any other questions, you're welcome to ask.
I thought your presentation was great. I wish I was there.
Yeah, you should have come, Danny.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. So if no one has any other questions, I'm going to say thank you very much. And I'll look forward to speaking to Shift Day tomorrow. If anyone couldn't come tonight that would like to go to hear me tomorrow at Shift Day, I'm happy to send the link.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Laila tov, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Salam.
Thank you.
Salam.
Okay, how do we get out?
Bye.